some thoughts went through my head, and it's like, where do I go from here? What does my life look like? Lots of thoughts going through my head, trying to figure out where do I go. But the one thing that I did know, that I was going to continue to follow Jesus no matter what. That's the one thing that I did know. Anything else from there, I had no idea which way to go, what I was going to do. So some time went by. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit, and I'd settled into my new life, what the normal was. And some of my friends they started inviting me to different things. They invited me to, back in '99 when the Aces made it to the NCAA tournament, they invited me to their house to watch the game. Lots of people there, no big deal. They invited me to go to a concert, go out to eat with them. What I didn't realize, they was trying to fix me up with some lady. Had no idea. But I finally did figure it out. I guess you could say a slow mover. At least that's what I've been told. So, sometimes God will send you a blessing and you're not even looking. And that's what happened to me. Because I was not looking, but God knew exactly what I needed. And He sent me this beautiful lady, which is such an encourager, was and always will be in my life. And she became my wife. So after we got married, we was trying to figure things out, where we're going to live. She had a house, I had a house. Do we live in hers? Do we live in mine? She had a son that was still at home. So we're just trying to figure things out of how our life together would be. So we prayed about it, and we decided to sell both of our houses and start from scratch and get a new start with our house. So I had a realtor friend of mine come over and gave me some advice on things I needed to do to my house before I could sell it. And she kind of gave me a price that she said, this is about where I think you can get out of it. It's just a suggestion that what she gave me. So on a Saturday morning, I was working on those projects that I need to do, and I heard a knock on the door. Went to the door, and there was this young couple there, and they was out walking their dog, and they said, hey, we heard you was going to sell your house. Now, I hadn't told anybody but my son. That's the only person I had told that I was going to sell my house. So now I got this young couple wanting to know if we're going to sell it. They said, we've been looking in this neighborhood for over a year, and our cousin just bought the house across the street from you. And come to find out, my son had told their cousin, which told them, and they come knocking on the door wanting to buy it. So I took them through the house, and they really liked it, wanted to come back by on a Monday and bring their parents. So their parents came in with them, looked at it, and they really wanted the house. So he said, we want a couple of days to think this over, and then we're going to call you back and make an offer. I said, that all sounds good. And I did tell him what the realtor suggested that I asked for the house. The thing of it was a suggestion, what the realtor said. So he called me back a couple days later and made me an offer. And I told him no. And he said, don't you want a counter? I said, no. I said, where did you come up with that price anyway? He said, well, you said what the realtor was going to ask for it, and I took 10% off of that, and that's where I came up with the price. I said, the realtor gave me a suggestion, not that that's what I accepted. And I said, so no. I said, you can just talk to the realtor when it goes up for sale. Because I really didn't want to deal with all that anyway of what goes into selling a house and all the paperwork and all the hassle and all that. I didn't want to do that. I just soon let the realtor do it, pay them their percent. That's their job. So he didn't know how to take that I said no and didn't want to counter. And he said, I told him, I said, I tell you what, you talk it over with your wife for a few days, and then you call me back, and I'll hear you out. You make another offer. Make this your best offer, or you're going to buy it from the realtor. So a couple of days later, he calls me, and he made an offer. I said, well, I need a couple of days to talk to my wife, and we'll discuss it, and then I'll call you back. And he said, that sounds good. So the next day he calls me and he said, hey, I'm going out of town. I'd really like to know if I'm going to be able to buy that house. And I accepted his offer. So they came over after he got back in town. He was out of town for the weekend. And they came over and signed the paperwork. And they asked us, they said, well, where are you guys going to live now? And I said, well, we're going to move into her house for now. And then we're going to sell it, and we're going to find us a house to start over in. And they said, well, where's that house at? We said, it's in Strawberry Hill subdivision. She says, you got to be kidding me. My best friend is looking for a house in Strawberry Hill subdivision. So she gave her friend our number, and she called us, came, looked at it. We gave her the price. She wanted the house. So she was okay with the price and everything that we gave her. And her dad was an attorney. And before she signed the contract, she wanted him to look it over. So this is back in the days where you faxed everything. So we faxed her a copy, and she sent it to her dad. He marks a bunch of stuff out, adds a bunch of stuff, and sends it back to me. I send it to my attorney friend, and I said, what's up with all this? And he said, well, he's just asking for this and this and this. And so I called her dad, and I said, what's up with all this marking everything out? This was our contract, and you want to mark it all up. He said, well, those are just suggestions. And he was wanting us to pay a year in advance on her taxes, wanted us to pay her closing costs, and he was marking different things out. And I said, no, that ain't happening. So I called his daughter and told her, I said, the deal's off. She said, why? And I said, your dad wants to do all this other crazy stuff, and we're not going to do it. I said, you can talk to a realtor. I'm not doing this. She said, let me talk to my dad, and I'll call you back. So she called her dad, and she called me back. She said, I'm giving you what you want. I'm signing your contract. We are making no changes, and that's what it's going to be. And I said, sounds good to me. So we sold 2 houses, no signs, no realtors, no nothing, got every penny we wanted for both of them. That's a God thing. That's my God. So, now where do we live? We've got 2 houses that sold. We haven't closed on either one of them, but we've got 2 houses that we're going to close on, and so we started having lots of yard sales because we had 2 houses full of furniture, and amazing enough, a lot of it matched each other, so we had a lot of the same taste. So we started looking, and I had just remodeled my house, and I wasn't wanting to do that again. So I really wanted to live on the west side, but boy, those people are proud of their property out there. So we started looking elsewhere, and we seen an open house on a Sunday, and it was on the north side. So we went out to look at it, and then we seen an open house on a new builder building houses. We never did find the house that we was looking at for the open house, but we went in the builder's house just kind of as more of a joke than anything, because we knew we couldn't afford it. Brand new house, no way. So we went in, we looked at it, and we absolutely fell in love with that house. So he gave us a sheet of what it cost to build that house. And of course, they put all the upgrades on those houses when they build them. So we took that sheet home and started marking things out that we didn't really care to have, and we seen that fell in our budget, that we could do this thing. So we prayed about it, we felt good about it, and we went out there and started the process of getting a new home built. Talking to him, he said he thought he could have our house done before we closed on ours and had to move out of ours. Now that's back when you got 45 days after you closed, not like nowadays you get 10. Back then you got a whole lot more time after you closed on your house. So we thought, well, okay. So he thought he could have it done. Well, it started raining a lot that season. So, of course, that put us behind. And we figure out where I'm at. Got ahead of myself. And so anyway, he got behind on our house. And he told us, we went and talked to him. We said, hey, we need to know, what are you thinking? I know the weather's slowed you down. He said, well, I have it was basically a loaner house that he built in that subdivision to let people, if in cases like this. He said, but these people's house is going to be done in a week, and then you can move into that one, and it was all going to be free. And he said, you can move in that one until yours is done. And it was right behind where we was building. And so we said, well, that's good. So we only had a week that we was going to have to try to find some place to live. So no big deal. We'll go get a hotel or something. It's Frog Follies week. You ain't finding nothing around here. So we was praying, checking where we could possibly stay. My brother offered, he said, you can come stay with us for a week if that's what needs to be. So we start moving our stuff into storage, not knowing where we're going. But Sean, Linda's son, used to call us, say, where are we staying at tonight? So he had no idea where we was staying. So we got down to like 2 days before we was going to be basically with no house. And my brother came to me and he said, hey, I know you've been looking for some place to stay for a week. He said the Brickyard, which he was a part owner of, he said one of the suites that's furnished just opened up for a week. Just happened to happen, Yeah, another God thing. So we moved in there, told Sean that's where he's coming tonight, at least for a week anyway. So anyway, we put all of our stuff in the storage unit, and then we was able to move into the builder's loaner house that he gave us, and he gave it to us for a whole month. That was no electric. We didn't pay no electric, no gas, no nothing. He paid everything for the whole month, and then we finally got to move into our new home, and so after the first 3.5, 4 months of doing everything that we did, we finally got to move into our house and try to settle in as a newly married couple. And and then Sean didn't have to call us and ask us where we're staying at because we was finally somewhere. So we were very, very grateful and blessed by that builder, and he's just a super nice guy and took care of us. And we knew once we got settled in that house, we knew that God blessed us with that house, and we knew that we had to open up that house. So we started having a small group. Our first small group together was at that house. And I remember the first small group, we had 3 people sign up. And the first night we had it, we seen one car pull up out front, but they didn't come in. They just sit out there. I was thinking, okay, it's past time. So Linda went out there and asked her. It was a lady, and says, are you here for the small group? She said, yeah, I was waiting on 2 of my friends, but I guess they're not coming. So she came in and talked to us, and those 3 ladies came for our small group, for our very first small group, and they became really, really good friends of ours, along with the one's husband. They were really good friends, and but anyway, like I said, we knew that when God put us together, that we had the heart for hurting people. And we knew that God was going to use us to encourage and help other people. And we knew that's why he gave us that house, because it was nothing that we did. So we'd lived there for about 5 years, and Linda's son Sean had moved out, and back then there wasn't anything out on the north side, out there off of Mount Pleasant and 41 is where we lived. There was nothing out there. So we heard our builder had bought some property across from Crossroads Church, and we was thinking, you know, that would be a pretty good area to live in. You know, it's convenient. And so we prayed about it, and this time we did put a for sale sign by owner in our front yard. And we had an open house that weekend, had people that made an offer. We accepted it. They gave us a deposit. We gave them 48 hours to decide whether they could back out of it in the 48 hours, but after that, it was, you know. So the next day they called us and told us they wanted their check back, that he was really nervous about it. They hadn't been married that long, and they were probably in their early 50s, but he'd never been married, never owned a house, and he was really nervous about it, so they wanted to come pick up their check. So we told them that's fine. So we waited out on the front porch for them, put my for sale sign back in the yard. 2 ladies came by and they said, is your house for sale? We said, well, yes, it is. She says, well, we've seen the sign gone and now it's back. She said, Eve said, yeah, it's for sale. Well, we're going to go look at the builder's house he's got for sale, and we'll be back if that's okay and look at yours. I said, that's fine. So they went down and looked at the builder's house. The people came and got their check, and they kind of wanted to go in and look at the house again, but I wouldn't let them. So, I mean, you either want it or you don't. So, and he didn't want it. So, and I understand you're nervous. But anyway, they left. The 2 ladies came back. They went through it. They started talking to us and said, yeah, we just looked at the builder's house, and we kind of know what we want to offer you on yours because we really like yours. And I said, well, before you make an offer, because they was still building in that area, so I knew what it would cost them to build our house there. So I said, before you make an offer, and you're going to compare my house to his house, I've seen his house. It's smaller than ours. He has no yard barn. He has no yard. He has no landscape. All that stuff cost. So before you make an offer on what he wants, know that you would have to pay for all that to move in his, to get his looking like ours. So they made us an offer, and I told them no. So hard nose, right? Hey, when you know what you want, you know what you want. So anyway, so they talked about it a little bit, and they said, well, we're ready to make another offer. And so they made another offer. Me and Linda went in the other room and talked, and we came back and accepted their offer. So we've sold 3 houses now without a realtor, just God. So when we talked to the builder about building us another house, we was just making a joke as saying, is there any discounts on building the second home? And he said, actually there is. We give you $5,000 worth of upgrades. So we said, okay, we'll take those. So we got a plan together, and he started building us a house. And of course we downsized a little bit. The other house was a little bigger than what me and her needed. I've lost my place again, if you can't tell. So we built that house, or had him build it, and we've lived there for almost 20 years now. And next year we will celebrate 25 years of marriage. And so evidently I didn't write enough notes for you guys, so I'm going to tell you one more story. This was the end of February in 2008, where we was going to church. They had these leadership meetings, and they called this group in from Chicago to do seminars. So we went on a Friday night, and then we was going to have another one on Saturday morning. We got up Saturday morning to do that, and I started having pains in my back, right between my shoulder blades. Lots of heart issues in our family, and I know that that can be a sign of a heart attack. So then felt like the pain was coming around to my side, and I was having a hard time breathing, and I told Linda, I said, you need to take me to the hospital. I'm not feeling well. So she finished getting ready, and by then I felt like I was doing fine. So we did call the ambulance, and they came, and they wanted to take me to the hospital, but I told them no. They took all my vitals, and blood pressure was a little high, but everything else was fine. So I called the doctor on a Monday morning and asked him, or made an appointment with him. So I went in and told him what was going on, and he said, well, let's go downstairs and get a scan done. He said, because that could possibly be a blood clot, the way you was having a hard time breathing and everything. He said, let's eliminate that. So we went down, came back up. I had no idea you can get results that fast, but he did. And he calls me up to the screen and shows me. He said, you see that and that? And I said, yeah, I see it. It just looks like a big blur to me. But he said, well, that's your aorta, and it's got an aneurysm. So, and I said, that sounds like a pretty big problem. He said, for me or you it is, but for a specialist, it's not a big deal. They can take care of that. So sent me to a specialist, and all this stuff happened really, really fast. Because when you got an aneurysm on your aorta, it's a big deal. So I went to the surgeon and seen him. They did all kinds of scans and that. And he said, well, he said, you're going to have surgery, and we're going to have to replace because you was born with a bicuspid valve. So your valve that pumps the blood out of your heart into your aorta, most everybody was born with 3 flaps on their valve, and that controls how much blood it allows into your aorta. Well, I was born with 2 flaps, so it let too much blood go into my aorta and caused that aneurysm. And so he said, we're going to have to replace that valve. And he said, well, we need to do some more tests to see if we need to replace what all we're going to have to do. And so they had to replace my aorta, or my valve and my part of my aorta. And I told him when I went back to him again, he said, well, the good thing is it's not an emergency. I said, well, that's good. Can we schedule this in the fall after golf season? You can relate to that, right, Dave? Not golf, but fish, you know? I said, yeah, can we schedule this for the fall then? He said, no, I mean, when it's not an emergency, we're not going across the street and doing it right now. So he said, this is going to happen within 5 weeks. So that's open heart surgery. And he was right. Within 5 weeks, I was in the hospital. But I can tell you, I was telling Linda the other day, I said, you know, when they rolled me back and they stopped me at the last stop before I went in, and my pastor was there and his wife and my sister and Linda was there and there was a few others, and they prayed for me before I went back. I said, but I had total peace that everything was going to be fine. And for you to have total peace and you're getting ready to have that done, that's God. That's God right there. So they did the surgery. Evidently, I didn't do real well coming off when they put me under. They said that whenever the surgery I had was going to be so long, they had to freeze me first. So they take my body temperature down to a certain temperature so I don't cause brain damage when they do this surgery. So I don't remember Monday at all. It happened on a Monday. I don't remember Monday at all. I remember when I did remember waking up, I asked the nurse, I said, is it time to go back? And she said, no, it's already been done. I said, oh, okay. So, but Linda said every time I would come, they'd try to take me off of that. I'd be wanting to pull, and they put me on restraints and everything else because I was wanting to pull all them tubes out. But I don't remember any of that. But she said it was pretty scary. And she said, I looked at her one time and says, what have you done to me? She said, at least that's the look you gave me anyway. But I don't remember any of that, so I'm glad that I don't. But anyway, after the surgery, we got home. I don't think we was home a couple of days. And I'm sleeping in the other bedroom because, you know, I can't be bothered. I need plenty of rest. So I'm sleeping in there, and all of a sudden I hear everything rattling on the walls and everything. And she come running in there. I said, what was that? She said, just go back to sleep. It was just an earthquake. Just an earthquake, yeah. So anyway, how amazing God is. I missed one Sunday church service, and I missed 5 weeks of work is all I missed. That's a God thing. And that's been over 15 years ago that all that happened. So, like I said, I thought I wrote down more than I did, but that's, as Roger would say, that's all I got. So, thank you guys.